King Mwanga the Great, Chapter 4. Like any other day, 25th of May, 1886. Kabaka Mwanga II sloped to Lake Victoria as usual to hunt for a hippopotamus. He was an invisible shooter who rarely missed, given his age. He had a well-built-up body, energetic and charismatic. Mwanga too was a fundi. The exercise was such a hectic one that yielded nothing to His Majesty but disappointment. His only beloved best friend drowned in water at the time he needed her most. The king's maximum gun that had shattered the jaws of countless game was nowhere to be seen. The search went on too late until the Great One went back home. It should be noted that rumor had it that the foreign missionaries had converted many people in the kingdom to Christianity, including the king's pages who worked in the palace. These were majorly lads, given the youthful stage of His Majesty. When the king reached the palace tired, pissed, and disappointed, he found out that most of his servants were missing. This threw his head into a boiling pot. He sat inside the palace and waited for those who had gone to learn the white man's religion. They used to slither away from the palace often and attain formal education plus foreign religion. This had become their routine that many of the palace chiefs warned these boys about the likely consequences of forgetting one's responsibility. The lads kept a deaf ear to the elders' warnings and dedicated themselves to serving a foreign god they never saw working. His Majesty Daniel Ssemyalo II picked his long and sharp spear called Mwabutwa and rested it into Musa Mukasa's flesh upon his side. Musa Mukasa was a long-serving guard who did this job during Ssekabaka Mukabya wa Lugembe Mutesa I's time of governance and used to maintain law and order at the mosque. Once His Majesty Kabaka Mwanga II saw him, despicable rage conquered him and poured Musa Mukasa's blood, then ordered the royal guards to execute Musa instantly. That was the last time he saw the sky. However, Musa was calm and happy for what the king had decided. He was prepared and ready to die for his people's sins according to their new religion. He anticipated the resurrection after 3 days. While still there, Apollo Kagwa reported carrying books from the station. He truly showed the king that he was from studying with the whites. The king was so much annoyed by Kagwa's action. He used his spear called Mwabutwa and blemished his face. He liked Kagwa so much because the younger servant was so loyal, obedient, and energetic when it came to doing manual work in the palace. Generally, Apollo Kagwa was a very good page. After sparing Kagwa, 2 other lads showed up, Mwafu and Sebugwao. The king picked up his Mwabutwa spear and rested it into Sebugwao's body. King Mwanga II urged that Sebugwao was a bad influence to Mwafu, thus Sebugwao had to be eliminated. Being a good servant, Mwafu was spared. These were related to the Prime Minister Mukasa and shared a totem. The king, who was still unhappy, issued a decree barring all pages who had gone to attend to the other masters from leaving the palace until further notice. He wanted to consult his ministers and nobles. The following day, the parliament sat and the king presented his issue. He claimed that the pages in the palace had grown irresponsible, Many no longer listened to him and only obeyed the white missionaries, even after warning them numerous times. These deliberately moved out of the palace without permission and came back at will. The nobles in the assembly were so terrified and requested the king not to labor much with his servants. They at once spoke with one voice, "Let them be killed. We shall bring other pages. We have many children." The king had no choice but to act as the majority had decided. It was against such a background that on 26th May 1886, over 20 palace pages were murdered at once. This action was so alarming that the entire kingdom shook. Many of the palace servants quivered and began looking for a safer way of running away from the palace, such that the ongoing operation did not catch them. They tried all means to escape, though it was also risky. According to the late Chief James Kinyuma Miti Kabazi, who was also serving in the palace as a younger page, his two friends and him skillfully escaped and passed through bushes to avoid being spotted. Daniel Sekajija and Luke had nowhere to go at the moment. All moved to Miti Kabazi's relative around, who was also called Noah Walukaga. This one stayed with them for some days and discovered that his residence was no longer safe. The three continued to Wakaliga and lived with Mr. Ngobya Kajelelo. From Kajelelo's home, the three sloped to Kasubi near Lubya and stayed with Sekajija's parents. They welcomed them with warm hands. They spread to Busiro County at Nabukalu village and lived with their relatives. However, this village had many royalists and proved unsafe for the three. They went back to Kasubi at the end of May 1886. They used to spend daytime around Nabisasiro stream, then nights at Kasubi. Life became so hard for the palace pages who had deserted. They kept on hiding until the situation calmed down. That was the time when the king embraced some of the brave officials who stayed at the palace after the massacre.